Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us on this morning's webinar, where we're going to look at unlocking your potential with ProSys. So more of an introduction, as well as if you've used ProSys before, there'll be something for you here as well. So we're going to take a look at the latest updates around ProSys and how you can use it in your ordering processes and just make things a bit efficient when using ProSys. So on the call today, there's obviously myself, Jason Pryke. I'm one of the senior technical sales executives here at ProVu. Been here for nearly 5 years now, I think 5 years this month actually. And obviously I've got my colleague Jordan on the call as well. How are you doing today, Jordan?
I'm very well, thank you. Yeah, as Jason mentioned, my name's Jordan Carr. I'm the Senior Technical Support Engineer at ProVu. I've been here for a little bit longer than Jason. It's been 7 years now, just gone. And yeah, so in the call today, I'll be talking about the updates on ProSys and giving you a little demo. But until then, I'll pass you back on to Jason.
Perfect, thanks, Jordan. So before we get started, so send it to your questions, guys, as of when you sort of have them throughout the webinar. We'll be taking a look at the end. We've got a Q&A section, but there's no stupid questions at all, so drop them in. It should have a little box on the right-hand side of your screen. You can drag this around as well if needed, but yeah, there should be a questions box, or it might be chat as well. You can drop your questions in there, and we'll take a look at the end. So what we're going to cover in today's webinar, there we go. So in today's webinar, we're going to be looking at sort of an introduction to ProVu, an overview really, I guess a little bit of history as well into ProVu. We're going to look at the 4 pillars of a ProSys with a little demo at the end. So we'll cover, I guess, what the building blocks of ProSys and how you can use it effectively. We're going to take a look at a portal comparison. So what does ProSys do against sort of the industry standard? What's coming soon, so a roadmap, because we have lots of exciting things planned. We've got and then we'll talk a little bit about the prize draw, and then obviously the Q&A section at the end, so get your questions in. So who are ProVu? Well, we're specialists in telecommunications, data and security distribution. We've been going for well over 20 years now, and we're based in Huddersfield. So you can see on the left here, there's a little picture of our converted mill, so in the heart of Huddersfield. So and we used to have our warehouse in here as well. So there's another picture there of sort of the old warehouse, which we outgrew quite quickly, and we moved a number of years ago now. So actually just up the road, so not too far, about a minute walk, nice and convenient for us. But yeah, we converted that space into more offices now. We specialize in supplying ITSPs and resellers of hosted services, and really this is in part due to ProSys and our commitment to giving first-class configuration options to our customers, and just making things as easy as possible. And we're always here to listen. So if you have a customer requirement, by all means let us know. So as I said, we've been going well over 20 years. And it's really important to note that we don't compete with our customers at all. So from an end user point of view, they can't just log on and even buy a retail pricing. There's nothing like that. We are strictly to the channel. So there's nothing, we don't compete at all. And we're here to help as well. So if there's anything at all you need, just come let us know really. So we've got a number of different suppliers that we work with and have worked with for a number of years now. From door entry systems or suppliers to handsets, your headsets, and routers as well. Got the latest brands that we've sort of added to the portfolio. So we've got TP-Link and PowerWalker. With TP-Link, again, we don't really want to be just a box shifter. So we want to be definitely more into the configuration side and technical aspect of TP-Link. Which we've got set up. So we've got configuration and hard coding options available, which we'll talk a little bit later on, especially because hard code is sort of something we've made in-house. It's sort of a name we've made up. But we'll take a look at those, and then of course, PowerWalker for your uninterruptible power supplies, which is actually an Ofcom requirement now, or is going to be. I think it's a little later this year, but Essentially, that'll be for, if you've got a vulnerable person, you need a power supply, so you have, in the event of a power cut, they can still reach somebody. So that's why we decided to take on them to really, have an answer to that requirement. It's important to note as well, we test every product before we send it out, or add it to the portfolio. So we did extensive testing with TP-Link, for example, recently, to make sure it was something we definitely want to offer, and then add the added value services there. So this is our team. So this, it's a fairly recent photo actually. So this it's quite an up-to-date photo, which is nice. But we're all quite tech savvy, but we're a small team still. Technology is something we all, are really, really interested in. So that helps with, the ability to support our customers. We're, as I said, we're a small team, but we have our own inbuilt systems to really maximize efficiency, which is great. Got our latest member of the team here on the left, so Bruno the dog. He helps with our, testing the latest products that we get in. So he's definitely an important member of the team. So a little bit of sort of a background to ProSys. So it was initially released in 2005. It was under a different name, but it's built and maintained and developed by our own tech guys and development team in-house. So it really gives us the ability to control every aspect of it, and really based on the feedback that we get from our customers, and that's really what we want to shape ProSys around, because ultimately it's you guys that are using it. So the feedback is very, very important for us, and to really get that development underway, and with the latest features that need to be given or updated. It's an award-winning portal, so it is recognized by industry bodies. There's a couple of awards down there, so Comms Business Award, for example. So obviously, it's award-winning, so there's obviously a reason it's it's been recognized. And it's we've paved the way really for secure provisioning for many leading manufacturers. I remember in the sort of the older days when we worked closely with SNOM, and built one of the first, or at least started to build, one of the first secure provisioning platforms. So how is ProSys being used? Well, it's been used by over 34,000 devices currently, are currently provisioned. We got 35,000 orders shipped through ProSys, 780 management users, and then 1,054 partners. So lots of our customers are already taking advantage of ProSys to really maximize their support within ProSys for their business. So yeah, here's just some stats to sort of give you an idea of the scale of ProSys. So really, what is ProSys? So for anyone sort of fairly new, ProSys is our online reseller portal, and it gives you access to a number of tools designed to really just ease the fulfillment and device management of with your customers and your business. So we've got the 4 pillars of ProSys down here. So ordering, you've got things like the price list and stock information. You can place orders obviously on ProSys, with multiple delivery addresses, multiple branding options, which we'll cover again in a little bit on the next sort of slides. But we've got provisioning as well, so really able to maximize and not having to have so much of a hands-on approach when you're shipping to your customer, because we can just ship directly to them with all the details, just so it's plug and play really. Then after, of course, if you've got need to change some details, you can do that from within ProSys, so remotely, and you don't have to get an engineer on site, which were quite costly. And of course, integration, so really just making things quite simple to integrate with your CRMs or whatever systems you're using. So we'll touch on sort of all of these in the next few slides, we've got a little bit more detail. So in terms of ordering, really, move it along. So ordering, so really we'll just make the ordering side as easy as possible, and with as many options as possible, really. So branded shipping is a standard for us, and really what this means is well, there's 2 things really, because we can actually set up a custom have a branded solution for you. So that might include boxes, for example. So let us know, and we can look into those requirements a little bit, a bit deeper. But of course, the branded shipping is the standard one. Really is a dispatch note that goes inside the box. So when your customer receives the parcel, they know exactly what they're getting or who the parcel's from. By default, we send these out plain. So if you have going to a separate address, we'll just send it out plain, just so there's obviously no trace of ProVu. We never include any invoicing or anything like that within the box anyway. Yeah, I mean, the branded side is really just to customize the package a little bit more, so you can have your own logo, contact details on there as well. So as I said, when your customer receives the parcel, they know exactly who it's from. So we've got a range of couriers that you can choose from. So we've got DPD, FedEx, and APC. I mean, FedEx really is used more for more international deliveries, yeah, we have multiple couriers to choose from, and you can also arrange your own courier if you'd like. So that's always an issue, an option as well. And then, of course, order history and order tracking. So we integrate with our couriers to make sure that you're not having to go to multiple different websites to find what you need. It's all in just one place. And we've done the integration from our side, so you can just see that in ProSys, via your order history. And of course, we've got, if you've been ordering with us for a long time now, you'll have a full history of all your orders in the past. So if you do ever need, to get MAC addresses, for example, or just find out to make sure this was delivered, you can do all that from within ProSys. So provisioning wise, so we've got a couple of different provisioning options available. So main ones, your redirection, your configuration, and hard code. So redirection really is more just pointing to a different hosted platform. That might be your own or a third party that you're using. The idea being, we can send put essentially the URL into the phone so that when it reaches that platform, you can just configure it. And it means you don't have to actually touch the phone yourselves. You can literally we can just get it sent straight to site, and they can just plug and play. Of course, we scan MAC addresses and serial numbers before we ship out any orders as well, if they have MAC address and serials, because not all products do. But you'll have those on your dispatch, or even in ProSys, you can find those on your order history. Configuration, so that sort of without that hosted platform, we handle the configuration of the phone. So if you want to put your extension details in, your SIP user password, things like that, again, just so you can ship direct to customer without having to get it to your own site. Setup. And then hard coding. So hard coding is more for routers, and really this is sort of burning ACS details onto the router before it's shipped out, which means that then it can just talk to the ACS platform and pull the details down that it needs. And this is a really powerful tool because without this, if your end user resets the router, suddenly you've got a router with no configuration details that can't speak to the network and can't actually give internet, which then is a bit useless. And you've got to get an engineer on site to rectify that problem. But with hard coding, it'll just pull down the details again from the ACS platform. Of course, decked handset setup as well. So, I mean, that last little bit of the setup that the end customer might have to do. So when we send some decked handsets to the site and they order multiple handsets, for example, those are going to have to still be paired. But with our, deck setup service, we can set up the handsets before they actually even leave us. Just so, again, it maximizes your customer's experience, so that it is literally truly plug and play. So device-specific config labels attached to boxes, just allowing for easy identification when your engineer's on site if they're deploying quite a large number of handsets. So what this really means is if we're configuring the handsets, we'll apply a configuration label to each box that'll have the extension number, the user on that box. So essentially, your engineer, if they're doing an installation, they know who it's for. So even if you are going to do an installation on site, it's still allowing things to be so much simpler because I'm not having to plug in every phone and find out who it's for, then put it on their desk. It's just a case of you see who it's for, you can unbox it and plug it straight in. And then we've got some new BLF configuration and a managed device dashboard, which we'll take a little look at in more depth because this is quite a new feature. So integration, of course, the idea with integration is that you can retrieve live pricing feed, stock information. You can place orders from your CRM or whatever system you're using. Retrieve tracking information, so you can even implement that for your customers. So you can, they can see tracking information from your. And of course, you can push and pull settings for devices through the integration. So we have a lot of or an extensive documentation that we've got available on ProSys, and if there is something else that you need on that, we have a team here that we can take a look at your queries and help you through getting integrated. And then of course management. So I mean, management really is more for post sale really. Really allows you to view and monitor all deployed phones, and routers. So if you have the event, you might have put in a extension number wrong, for example, or a name wrong. You can edit that after the fact without having to go to site again. So really just making things as simple as possible. Or even if you're repurposing a phone that you've got back to site, your customer returned, you can change the details within ProSys and get those just sent back out. So you can search for phones by MAC address or by a phone number within ProSys. Again, really allowing you to just search and find that phone easily, because you've got hundreds of orders, thousands of orders. It can be quite difficult to search, I imagine. You can manage and schedule firmware updates. So if you want to do it at 2 o'clock in the morning, for example, you can do that from within ProSys and push the firmware. You also get logs of firmware updates as well as the phone status, or if there's been any errors or anything like that. You can see that from within ProSys. And you can of course adopt devices purchased from a different supplier, or this might just be if you've taken on a new customer, have already got an estate of phones, we can take those onto the ProSys management and you can still manage them. You can change the details from there. So really just making things easy for you to take over an existing site. And that can just be done through ProSys. You can adopt the phone, just need the MAC address and what phone it is, and there you go, we can get it adopted. So I'm going to pass you on to Jordan now, who's going to sort of take you through the next few slides and a little demo as well.
Thank you, Jason. Yeah, so as Jason mentioned, I'm going to be doing the latest updates. So obviously, basically based on customer feedback, we've released a bunch of new updates for ProSys. So those of you that are already using it, you might have noticed a few different changes. We're going to go into that. We're going to go over the different slides and what we've actually introduced. And then also I'll do a quick demonstration as well in ProSys so you can get a feel for what we have changed. So the first latest update being BLF provisioning, or should I say function keys. So basically, if you don't know what BLF provisioning is, or BLF function keys, they're more or less the same thing. So BLF stands for busy lamp field. It is one of many function keys, so you can have speed dials and things like that. This was a major update for us. We had a lot of customers giving us feedback, and we want provisioning, we want to be able to do BLFs for deployments and things like that. So we took that on board and we've added that now for Fanvil, Polycom, Cisco, Snom and Yearlink devices. I will show you a brief how to do it and where to get to it in ProSys just in a couple of minutes after these slides. So that is that. For the next update, we've got FTTP configuration. So this can be found either on the ordering page at the time of ordering, or it can be found on the configuration page as well if you are a ProSys management customer. So again, I'll show you briefly that, but essentially what it is exactly what it says on the tin. It's the connection type. So whether you've got an FTTC connection or an FTTP connection, you can select the type, and depending on the drop down, depending on the option that you choose at the time of ordering, changes how our provisioning works. So when we do the setup, it changes how we provision. So for example, if it's FTTP, we provision 1.2 rather than 1.1 and so on for you tech guys out there. Again, so obviously for those of you that are used to ProSys, and you might have noticed that this page has changed. Essentially, we've changed how it looks and how it also functions as well. So it's a lot easier to kind of access your phone. So you can see obviously your SIP phones on the left hand side and your routers on the right, and then based on different vendors as well. So you've got obviously your phones on the left hand side, so Cisco, Fanvil, Polycom, all of them, and then they've got a little drop down icon that you can click on. That will then show you all of the models in that specific class, in that vendor. From there you can see how many you've purchased, and then you can click on that and it'll show you a list of all all the MAC addresses and dispatch line IDs and things like that to go in. But I'll show you that after these slides. Same again for routers. You can see how many routers you've purchased from us, and obviously go to the configuration page. The good thing about ProSys, obviously, when you're configuring either phones or routers, it doesn't change the configuration page. So it's one location for everything, to be able to configure and provision all your devices from one platform. And then the latest change as well is the white label marketing materials. So you might have noticed, obviously we've been doing a lot of activity around the ISD and switch off recently, and to help you drive the message to your customers, our marketing team have created a range of materials for you to use, for your own campaigns. So you can either download and edit, yourself the information, so the flyers, the banners, the videos. You can download and edit them. Or if you choose, that you want, our marketing team to add your own logos, you can, of course, email marketing@provu.co.uk, and they'll be able to help you out there as well. If you do notice any of your campaigns, any other campaigns, and think it would be useful, to use on your own activities, then obviously, like I said, get in touch with marketing@ProVu, and they'll see how they can help. So I'm just going to go into the tech demonstration now, basically covering what I've just discussed, but I'm going to show you an actual demonstration, show you how to get to each page, so you can get a better feel for it. Okay, so hopefully you can see my screen there. So obviously this is the dashboard. Some of you may be familiar with this. So what we're going to go into first is the ordering section. So we're going to cover the FTTP and FTTC drop down that I discussed. So to go onto that, you click place an order. And then we're just going to this product, choose product section here. You can, if you know the model, the specific model, you can select that and type that in. Or if you don't know the model, you can just type in the vendor. So for example, if I type in Dratec, it'll show all the models that we've got. So let's just add a 2765 AC here. And then you'll notice that there is a little X icon. If you have got the wrong item, you can click the little remove icon, but there's also a little blue configuration button here on the left hand side. If you click into that, you'll then see the connection type that I discussed. So obviously FTTC and SOGEA, they're more or less the same thing, the same parameters we use, so that's one drop down, and we do have FTTP as well. There is a FTTP IP option coming as well soon to ProSys, which obviously allow you to set a static IP rather than the PPP details. But essentially, if you select FTTP, you can enter the PPP details that you'll get from your provider. You've got your Wi-Fi SSID and password that you can enter, or you can disable Wi-Fi as well if you'd like. You've also got the router name that just displays, on your DHCP page and things like that. You can also change the web UI password and then also change the different templates as well. But I won't get into that too much because that is going to be covered in we're going to go into an in-depth ProSys demonstration for both the sales side and the tech side in a couple of weeks, so stay tuned for that. We will discuss it in the slides briefly. So that's for the ordering side, for the FTTP side. If I move on to the new management dashboard that I discussed, so obviously on the dashboard here, you'll see it says new. If you click into this managed device dashboard, you'll see obviously this has changed. So as I mentioned, you've got the SIP phones down the left-hand side and the routers on the right. If you click into one of these, so if we just click on Yearlink, it will drop down the models. Obviously, this is just our test account, so there's not, every single model there. We've just got a few that we've been testing, but you can see the number of devices you've got on there, as well as all the models, and it's the same for routers as well. On this page, there is a couple of different links as well, so you can switch back to the old device list if you don't like the new one. You can also leave customer feedback. So this is where you would get to the form. If you click on that, it'll basically take you to a form to fill in. So whether it's you're giving us feedback on changes that you might not like, or or even positive feedback, anything is welcome, because obviously we'll take that information and we'll just we'll implement the changes that you want. Like I said, a lot of these changes that we've added are due to customer feedback. So anything that we can do to make ProSys better, we're willing to do it. And obviously it's all done in-house, so everything's discussed in-house. And to be fair, it's published relatively fast. Obviously we've got a list of stuff that we work through, but compared to most, we prioritize this. So from here, then obviously you can get to the configuration pages through this device management platform. So if I'm just going to go into a Yearlink device here. So if you click on I'm going to go for this T27. If you click on this, it'll take you to this provisioning list. So here we'll show you basically a bunch of information. Obviously we've only got one phone on here, but this if you had a list of 20, 30, it'd all show up on here. From here, you've got your MAC address, your order ID. You can change what you see as well. So if you click this little columns icon at the top right here, you can see what data you want to be presented in the table. So if you wanted to remove the order ID or the MAC address or something like that, the live data it loads live essentially. Once you've got the information that you want to see, you can then export it as a CSV, XML, or .json file up at the top right. So if for whatever reason, if you wanted to export it for customer details or for your own account reviews or something like that, then you can do that there. And then there also is another little link there for the feedback, just to mention that. So if I click into the MAC address, obviously you can see that's a link. If you click in the MAC address, it'll take you to the dispatch page where you've got a bunch of information on. Like I said, I'm not going to go too much into that because that's for the in-depth ProSys demo. But if you click on edit configuration, you'll see a bunch of different configuration tabs along the top. And the one that we're focusing on today is the function keys, aka your BLF provisioning. So once you click into that tab, the first thing you're greeted with is a message to say how many keys the phone actually supports. So obviously we've got a table that displays how many keys the phone has, and it'll display here. So for example, this T27 supports 21 keys, and that is how many keys will be displayed on the screen for you to provision. So that's the first thing. And then obviously you've got a little drop down here. It doesn't provision every single BLF key. You're always going to have a load more options within the Yearlink web interface, but this we found is the most commonly used function keys in our opinion. So obviously you've got your line key, which is just essentially to be able to dial and make calls. You've got your BLF option, which I think I mentioned. It stands for busy lamp field, and that is basically allows you to see people's presence. So whether they're on the call or not. If they're not on a call, it'll be green. If they're on a call, it'll be red, or so on. So that's that. There is also a speed dial option, which again, that's pretty self-explanatory. Click that button, it'll make a call to said number. You've got a DTMF option, which is for sending like star codes and things like that. Your voicemail pins and codes to unlock doors and things like that. And you can also set it to none if you wish. So if you do set a key, so obviously we've got a BLF option here, with a number, just a test number, and then my account. If you do set that, you scroll right down to the bottom and click Save Configuration and Apply. What that apply button will do is basically push the parameters in the back end to our provisioning platform, and then the next time the phone contacts our server, which can either be after a reboot or periodically, maybe once every hour or something, it'll pull down the latest information. You can also delete the BLF keys if you no longer want it anymore. So if you click the little X, it'll grey out the option, and then you can click Save and Apply again, and that will remove it as well when the next time the phone contacts our server. So as I mentioned, that's for Yearlink, Snom, Fanvil, Polycom, and Cisco. I think the plan is to add it for a couple others as well. But obviously, if you do have any feedback on that, or if you do, have any, if you want to have a play around with it, and you find yourself wanting to provision a couple of different more types of function keys, then obviously get in touch, and we can work something out and have a discussion on that. So for the rest of the demonstration, obviously the in-depth one that'll be done in a couple of weeks. So let me just get back onto these slides, and I'll pass you back onto Jason for the rest of the slides. Just bear with me 1 second. So over to you, Jason.
Yeah, thanks, Jordan. Amazing. So we're going to look at the sort of how does ProSys compare in comparison with what else is out there. So from our point of view, what most portals tend to be able to do is quite basic. So obviously here we've got ordering, pricing view, product search, things like that, as well as order history. Quite a common feature among most of the portals, but you can view your pricing on there. But even something as simple as downloading price lists in different formats, we don't see very much, which you can just do on ProSys. So if you want a full price list, you can get that through ProSys, and often people use this to upload to their own systems. But as I said, if you've got API, that should all just be live anyway, so it might not always be needed. We've got multiple delivery options, including timed delivery options. So if you have something you need on site tomorrow, on a pre-10, for example, we have options available for you, and you can see that with the pricing all in ProSys, and it'll tell you the cut-off times for the different carriers as well. So as long as you get it on before there, we'll get it out for delivery the following day. We've got device and router provisioning. So as we've mentioned, you can set up your routers or devices on there on ProSys. Whereas again, most of it's either on a separate portal, or you just can't do it. You have to email in, which is usually no good if you're trying to do something quite quickly. Or again, API integration, you just got that one portal instead of having to have multiple, or adding another process and having to email in or call in. Management of devices, again, more for the post install, config changes to firmware, extension numbers. Again, separate portal, or typically it's just an email or a phone call in. Whereas in ProSys, you can just do it there and then. So we've got also an archive of product images and data sheets available on ProSys. So you can find a big archive of all the different material that we have for easy access, really. I mean, that again can be used if you upload in loads of images to your website, along with data sheets. But it can be all found in ProSys without having to Google it yourself, or having to ask a manufacturer. Got personalized account user permissions. So on that, we've got per user we can set up the different levels of permissions. So this might be where one user can't see pricing or ordering, but they can see the account's information, for example. So that's all doable within ProSys. And that's something you'll have to speak to us about to make sure the details are set up correctly, how you want them. And of course, API integration and documentation. So moving on to sort of more of a summary really on the ProSys key benefits. So effortless ordering, again with your API or just ordering physically on the portal. Quite simple and self-explanatory to go through, and there shouldn't really be too many issues, we hope. You've got 24/7 accessibility with this as well. So if you do want to place an order later on at night, or if your customers are viewing your website and want to buy something, they can do that and it'll get sent straight through to us. So you don't have to even be in working hours. We can accept orders. Instant stock allocation. So really this is kind of two things. So there's live stock information available on ProSys. So as soon as somebody orders, the stock goes down. So this kind of allocates the stock to you. And of course, for anyone else viewing ProSys, we'll see, oh, actually, now this is, there's less stock of this, or it's gone out of stock, for example. And it's been allocated to your order. And we've got dedicated, pre-sale support and post-sale support. So we test all our products before this gets sent out. So we are very knowledgeable of the products that we do sell. So by all means, come to us for any questions you do have. And then exclusive resources, so the white label marketing material, for example, or the archive of data sheets and product images. So in terms of the roadmap and what's coming, so we've got a couple of things planned at the moment. So we've got advanced TR69 provisioning with Draytech routers, and then we've got new price list design with different search function and filter options. So kind of really an overhaul to the price list and stock information to make it look so much better really. And I have seen it as well, and it does look really, really impressive. So I'm quite excited to be able to show that to you at some point going forward. But I mean, on here you can you'll be able to now click on products and see what suggested items we recommend you purchase with the product or something. If you're going for a door entry system, for example, you can see what frames we recommend, what licenses, things like that. They're all on there. So, and that's actually a manual thing from our side. So, that the product's there that we're recommending, that it's not just automatically filled in or anything like that. And then as well, something that's not on here, but we've got an ACS platform that's planned for managing routers. Again, just getting rid of the need to have a separate portal or a separate platform to do something. We want to integrate that within ProSys, so you have everything in one place. And as Jordan mentioned really in the demo there, feedback is very, very important, and we really appreciate any constructive feedback or even positive feedback that you might have. I mean, it does really allow us to develop the portal in a way that is most useful to our customers, and really you guys are the ones that are using the portal, so it's invaluable to us to have this feedback. Now you will have a couple of different ways to submit feedback, as Jordan kind of showed you there, but also on the main homepage you can see there is a little form essentially to fill in here that'll come through to us. And then prize draw. So what we got for grabs today, we've got win a free month of shipping on any orders placed through ProSys. So we're going to do the draw after the webinar is concluded, and we'll reach out to the winner in the coming days, but most likely today. And then we've got a couple more live demos planned. So these are going to be a bit more in depth. So from sort of my side, we've got the procurement side, you've got your price lists, manage your stock levels. It might be a little bit into how to configure a device in there. And the registration link is going to be included in the follow-up email as well.
Yeah, and just shortly after that at 11:40, there's going to be the tech demo where I'll basically be discussing the provisioning side of things in more depth, the ProSys phone adoptions or device adoptions, should I say now, because we can also adopt the routers, and just basic management and what you can do with your phones there.
Amazing. Okay, so we have as well a ProVu Partner Day that's actually upcoming. I believe it's on the 29th of November. So that's going to be the Partner Day. So we have a couple of spots available still, so you can obviously reach out to us and get signed up for that and get registered. We'd love to see you all down there. So we've got a bit of an action plan day that we want to welcome you down to. So any more information on that, let us know. But I think we might also send some information out after the webinar as well. So that's it really. So I appreciate everyone's time. So there's sort of the Q&A section now. If you have any questions, drop them in. I can see there's one that's actually come in here. Let's have a look. Let's have a look. It's not a great view. Let me see.
So if I'm all right to start, Jason, we do have
Yeah,
a question. We have a couple of questions. So there was a question about the Sogia ordering from the new drop down. So yeah, I think I answered it, which obviously you mentioned there. But yeah, essentially you would select the FTTC option from the drop down. It is slightly different, but in the provisioning it's not. So yeah, from that drop down, you would select the FTTC/Sogia, I think it said in the actual demo, and that would do the provisioning.
Perfect. Okay, so let's have a look. The view's not great here. Cool. Can we add already supplied devices? Or will it need to be a new provision device? Do not want factory default. Yes, yeah. So we can obviously we can take adopt those phones onto our system. We can get that done within ProSys. So you just have to give us the MAC address and what model of phone, and we can obviously get that provisioned and into the management portal for you.
Yeah, just have a look. Can we get a test license for an older router so we can see how it works? NFR for internal stuff. What would you say to that, Jason, in terms of the?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if that's in sort of reference to the management side. So if you do have a router you want to play around with and test it, I mean, in terms of the management side, it's that is our sort of paid for service. So that's works out at 17p per device and then 40p per router. But it is actually free up to the first £3. So if you do want to test, if you just let me know, we'll get a MAC address from you, and we can get that provision onto the system, and we can you can have a play around with it. And yeah, you can do some testing internally for yourself. Perfect, I'm hoping that's what you were in reference to there.
Yeah, I mean, even as well, if you do have a router that you've got there as well, if it is a router that we do provision, Technicolor or Dratec, then you do have the ability to adopt it as well. So if you haven't bought it from us, you can adopt it, and you get all the same functionality as you would as if you bought it. So we basically import the MAC address onto our provisioning platform, and from there you can then change the provisioning type, things like that. We do have some guides as well on blog.provu.co.uk on how to do that as well, especially for Technicolor.
Perfect, cool. Okay, so and there's also one here. Do not have management on marketing sections on my ProSys screen. How do I add to test? So that's something I'll get added after the webinar, because it is, again, it's down to the permission. So it might be that you've just not got that available to see. But as I said, I'll get those added, and I'll drop you a quick email just to make sure you're aware that's been added. And of course, if it's still not visible, but it should be, that you just let me know. But I'll come back to you separately on that one.
And then we've got another one here. Can we add already supplied devices to management? Is that the question that you just briefly touched on then? Is that slightly different? I think it's slightly different.
No, that's different, yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, you can also add devices. If you bought them from us, just contact us with the MAC addresses, we can enable them. And then as I previously mentioned, if it is a device that you haven't bought from us, then you can adopt them. If you do go to blog.provu.co.uk, there is an adoption, how to adopt a device on there. Obviously, or if you're not in any rush, we will be covering that in depth in the demonstration in a couple of weeks.
Absolutely perfect. So there's also send us information on the partner day. Yeah, we'll get that sent over to you as well. That's not an issue at all. We'll get some information sent across. We'd love to see you there.
Yeah, we've got another one. How will your ACS compare to Dratec's ACS3? So to be quite fair, I think we're actually integrating ACS3, but kind of putting our own style on it. So it kind of is ACS3 to my understanding. And then basically what we're doing is having it so it's integrated to for our platform, just so everything's in one place. So you're going to have more or less the same features, or at least the most popular ones in ACS3. So you're going to be able to see, your uplink, your downlink, your uptime for the routers. You're going to be able to see login information, scheduled firmware upgrades, things like that. Obviously, it's not in ProSys yet, but I have seen it with the work that the systems teams have been doing. It does look impressive, and obviously it's all in ProSys. It's one account, rather than going to multiple. That's kind of the aim we're going with that. ACS beta testing as well. Happy to help. That's perfect. Once that is live, obviously I'm sure we'll be doing some marketing around that, and it will be in beta for testing. Obviously, everything goes into a beta stage. So yeah, happy to receive feedback on that.
Cool. I think that's most. Oh, there's one more here actually. So what would you select if it's a Sogia order, or is it a new drop down been added for these connections? I don't know if you want to take that one, Jordan.
Yeah, so I think I covered that briefly. So yeah, so FTTC and Sogia. I think it is in the drop down there. So you've got there's two options at the moment. You've got your FTTP, and then you've got FTTC/Sogia. So that is the option you pick. That basically is the same provision parameters that it will generate as the FTTC option. So yeah, you'd select that one.
Amazing. Okay. I think that's sort of it in terms of questions.
Can you import third-party supplied router to your ACS? In terms of third party, I'm not entirely sure. If you mean it's if it's a device that you've already got, as in third party, as in you've sourced it from a third party, as long as it's a router that we provision, if it's on our our list, then we can provision it. If it's a model that we obviously haven't tested, and unfortunately not, we would have to get a model in and do some testing. But we're more than happy to get different router models in and things like that. That's we're more than happy to expand on the portfolio. So if there is any routers that you're seeing a lot of orders coming on, and you'd like to order them from one place and do the provisioning and things like that, then get in touch with the support team or myself, and obviously we can maybe look at order one in and do some testing.
Perfect. Let's have a look. I don't think there's any more questions in at all. We'll give it another 30 seconds or so. So if you've got any more questions, drop them in.
Yeah. There's another one here as well. Let's just come in. So adding a router, will it need a factory default? If there is, so there's a couple of things. Obviously, if the router's already got a live connection, because a router is slightly different to how a phone works. Obviously, when a phone works, you plug it into to the switch, it gets an IP address straight away from the DHCP, or if you set static on it, and then it's got an internet connection then, so it pulls the provision down from that. Whereas with the router, obviously they need the PPP details to get the internet access from the line. So it varies. Obviously, if the router's already got an active line, then you don't need to factory reset it. Obviously, it's got the internet connection. It can talk to our provision URL and pull down the settings to update the details and pull down a template that you've got and remote access, things like that. If there is no details in there currently, or if it doesn't have an internet connection, say for example if the line has gone down, then yes, unfortunately you will need to put the PPP details in there. But as soon as you do that, as soon as it got an internet connection, it'll talk to our servers. Static IP on FTTP, how to provision. So static. So the IP option, I think I mentioned it. It is coming to ProSys. Hopefully in the next month or two, it's going to be a separate option in that drop down on the ordering page I showed you. So in terms of if you are an API customer, if you're placing orders via API, then it is already available. You can do it through the API. It's just in the GUI because there is some structural changes to add that in there. So obviously that's not something we can just push quite easily. But yeah, we would still obviously provision 1.2 with your IP details. And like I said, via API we can do it, but not currently through the ProSys GUI. Obviously, if it's something that you want us to do, we can still do it. You don't have to, obviously, if you're not an API customer, you can just email support@provu.co.uk and we can basically do that manually for you before it's shipped out. So essentially, you know, it's still plug and play for your customers.
There's also another one here saying,
yeah.
What about the new Dratec 2135AX? I'm assuming in reference to the ACS platform and even just, I guess, adding the configuration details. So correct me if I'm wrong, Jordan, but I mean, essentially, as soon as we've got the kits available to test, and we'll get that set up, so it should work like the other routers.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it should work the exact same. Yeah, so once we've got the new kit in, we basically test it. But as with Dratec and with Technical, the parameters are more or less all the same. It's just from our point of view, we just need to see, you know, what new features it might have, and because obviously depending on which router you select in ProSys, a few different options will appear. Because obviously if it's a Wi-Fi router, then you've got extra options there for your Wi-Fi SSID and password and things like that. So yeah, once we've got that in and tested, it should just all work the same. I've got another question here. How secure is the management to routers when clients have Cyber Essentials and interface turned off? Or is the ACS? Why is the ACS needed? So I mean, our provision is always secure provisioning. It always has been, I think, since we started ProSys in 2005. So yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong, you can use the ACS platform. That's, you know, we're not trying to, you know, people are used to what they're used to. You know, if you've got the ACS platform and you use that and you like it, the reason why we've done what we've done with integrated to the ACS platform is just so that everything's in one place. And obviously it's tied into one price. You know, you just pay for process management, and then you've essentially got, you know, like Dratec ACS, you've got the ability to manage your phones, all via secure provisioning. So yeah, there's nothing to worry about there. And just see if we've got any more questions coming.
I can't see any different ones or new ones.
No, I mean, if you do have any questions, you know, that might come to your head a little bit later on, then just drop us an email, either contact@provu.co.uk or support@provu.co.uk, and we'll come back to you.
Amazing. Yeah. Well, thanks everyone. Thanks for your time. As John said, just let us know if there's anything additional we can do to help, and any questions.
Perfect. All right. Thank you for your time.
Yeah. Thanks everyone. See you later.
Take care. Bye-bye.